Welcome to another episode of What Is It Wednesday? Today we'll be comparing autism and sensory processing disorder. If you are new to our channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button to get notifications of all our new videos. A lot of times people mistake sensory processing disorder and autism, so this video will definitely be helpful for you. Did you know that autism and SPD are different? They are actually connected, but not one and the same. SPD can be a symptom of autism. Let's get into SPD first, and then we'll talk about autism in more detail. Check out our other video on the brain and how sensory processing disorder works by clicking the link above or the link in the description. Individuals can actually have sensory processing disorder on their own, even though doctors do not recognize it as an official disorder. Why do you ask? The debate is that some believe that SPD can be mistaken for other disorders, or it can coexist with other disorders, such as autism or ADHD. Other doctors argue that a lot of these symptoms are age-appropriate. In a sense, what is SPD? It is a disconnection with the nervous system and the senses. The brain cannot organize the sensory information entering the brain, resulting in an inappropriate response to the stimuli. Some red flags that something is wrong in this area could be clumsiness, behavioral issues, anxiety, and struggling in school with behavior or academics. A summary of things to look for include oversensitivity to clothes, food, certain textures, bright lights, loud sounds, certain smells, signs of poor motor skill, and muscle strength. You can also see sensory-seeking behavior, which consists of bumping into furniture, walls, a high pain tolerance, extreme roughhousing, or screaming, because those children are looking for sensory input and will do anything they can to get it. There are actually 3 types of sensory processing disorder. The first one is the one that I've been referring to throughout the video. It is sensory modulation disorder. That'll be the one that we focus on the rest of today. In sensory modulation, the brain cannot organize sensory information in the brain. Responses to the stimuli can include sensory seeking, over-response, or under-response to the senses. In a sensory-based motor disorder, the child has a delay in fine motor skills or gross motor skills and balance. In sensory discrimination disorder, an individual cannot tell the difference between the stimuli using the same sense. Today, I'll be sharing a checklist of traits in each of the senses for children that may have SPD, and then we'll move on to autism. If your child has many of these traits, consider chatting with your child's doctor about your concerns. Children can be overreactive in one sense and underreactive in another. They don't have to be overreactive in all the senses and underreactive in all the senses. Each child can have a different combination. Take note of where your child falls to determine which category they fall in. This will help you to learn how to help them better. When a child is overreactive, that means they're hypersensitive, meaning that they feel the sensory input much stronger than others, and it can be really intense. Children can also be hyposensitive, meaning they don't feel the sensory input as much as others, so it feels very muffled or soft. Let's talk about touch first. An over-responsive child will avoid being touched or touching something, react with a fight or flight response when getting dirty to certain textures, light, unexpected touch, and sound. An under-responsive child is unaware of messy hands, face, clothes, or if they have had an accident. They may not know that he or she was touched. They don't know how things feel. A sensory seeker walks in mud, dumps out bins of toys, rummages through them for no reason, chews on non-food objects like shirts or sleeves. In regards to movement and balance, an over-responsive child avoids moving and being unexpectedly moved, is worried about falling or being off balance. They keep their feet on the ground, and they get carsick. Under-responsive children do not notice or object to being moved. They're unaware of falling and protect themselves poorly when they fall. They can swing without getting dizzy. Sensory seekers crave fast and spinning movement, move constantly and fidget, get in upside-down positions. They're daredevils and they take bold risks. In body position and muscle control, an over-responsive child may be rigid and uncoordinated. They avoid playground equipment that give too much sensory input. An under-responsive child will lack inner drive to move during play. They become more alert after actively pushing, pulling, lifting, or carrying heavy loads. A sensory seeker craves bear hugs and being squeezed and being pressed, and they seek heavy work and more vigorous playground activities than others. With sight, an over-responsive child will get overexcited with too much to look at, covers their eyes and has poor eye contact, inattentive to their desk work, overreacts to bright light, and is alert and watchful. An under-responsive child will ignore new visual stimuli, like obstacles in their path. They may respond slowly to approaching objects, and they may not look away from bright light and stare at and look right through faces and objects. A sensory seeker will seek visually stimulating scenes and screens for lengthy periods of time. They'll like shiny or spinning objects and bright and flickering light, like strobe lights. In regards to sound, an over-responsive child will cover their ears to close out sounds or voices. They'll complain about noises like vacuum cleaners that usually don't bother other people. An under-responsive child will ignore ordinary sounds and voices. They might like exaggerated musical beats or very loud, close, or sudden sounds. A sensory seeker will welcome loud noises and TV volume. They love crowds and places with noisy action, and they may speak in a booming voice or screaming. With smells, an over-responsive child may object to odors like a ripe banana that usually doesn't bother other people or they even notice. An under-responsive child may be unaware of unpleasant odors and be unable to smell his meal. If he has an accident, he might not even be able to smell it. A sensory seeker will seek out strong odors, even bad ones, and they sniff food, objects, and people. They're the child that smells everything. And finally, with taste, an over-responsive child will strongly object to certain textures and temperatures of food. They may frequently gag while eating, and they do not like to try foods because of this. An under-responsive child may be able to eat very spicy food and have no reaction because they don't really taste it. A sensory seeker may lick or taste inedible objects like Play-Doh or toys, and sometimes people. May prefer hot or spicy foods in order to get that input. Now please note, if your child has a few of these symptoms, it does not mean your child has SPD. All children experience these at one point in their lives. When it becomes severe, overwhelming, affects their daily life, or they have a lot of these traits, just talk to your child's doctor. SPD is going to stop right here, but autism continues. Autism as SPD is a symptom, but has much more in addition. Individuals with autism usually exhibit at least half of these following traits, but every case is different. Every child with autism is different, so the variety of traits will vary. These traits can vary from mild to severe and vary in intensity. And remember, you can have sensory processing disorder without having autism. But it is worth to try to see if your child exhibits autistic tendencies. Some major signs of autism include a poor response to their own name. So if you call them, they may respond. They may not respond, but most of the time they won't. Lack of eye contact. Poor imitation behavior, meaning they have trouble imitating or copying people or things they see. They also lack empathy, which means understanding how someone feels. In autism, they struggle with understanding social cues and recognizing emotions of themselves and others. They have no real fear, difficulty making friends, resisting changes in routine, and they don't point to things. They may have speech delays. They may have stimming, odd sustained play. They may repeat words or phrases, and they prefer to be alone. Some more signs include uneven fine and gross motor skills. They may spin or line up objects. They won't respond to verbal cues, not just their name. And they have abnormal attachment to objects or obsession about topics. Meltdowns are not tantrums. They may have some meltdowns. They have difficulty expressing their needs. They are overactive or underactive, and they don't respond to normal teaching methods. Did you know that autism is not an emotional disability? It's actually a disorder of the brain. And people with autism do make eye contact, and they can show affection. And they are definitely not all the same. A lot of parents with children with autism hear, your child doesn't look like they have autism. You can't tell right away if someone has autism. There isn't a specific look. Children with autism do want to have friends. They smile. They can talk. And they don't all perform amazing feats like memorizing a book or dates. And they can have relationships. Here are my final thoughts. Getting a diagnosis of SPD and/or autism will help parents, teachers, and caregivers to understand how the child thinks, how their brain works, and how to help them best. So, if you think your child fits these categories, get them in to see their pediatrician as soon as possible. Getting into a specialist for a diagnosis for autism may take a while, so getting started soon is imperative to help your child be successful.
If you found this video helpful, please like our video. We would love for you to become part of our family, so please hit that subscribe button and the bell for notifications of our new videos.